absolutely no clue what was going to happen. As class began, it was as if I was an infant. I felt the wind for the first time, the roars of the ocean, and the feeling of the sand, literally as if it were my first time. All the other 30 women or so seemed to fade away into this one big, I can't even explain to you the feeling. It just felt expansive. I felt connected to something that I didn't even know existed. I knew in that moment that I would not only be a lifelong practitioner of yoga, but that I would teach as well. That thought was very scary to me, but the feeling I had was absolutely like home. It was so comforting. But after practicing yoga for just a short bit, I found it very interesting that when I mention the term yoga, most people say, I can never do that. I'm not very flexible. So I'd like to first start by saying that yoga is not about getting yourself into a pretzel. Mimi and I are going to speak today, but I promise you we won't be twerking your toe to get behind your ear. And honestly, if enlightenment required that, I don't think I would want to sign up for that. So, my indirect teacher, a teacher that I didn't physically learn from, but have through books and other teachers who studied with him, his name is Swami Satchidananda. Swami left the body several years ago. He explains in a quote that sums up exactly how I feel yoga has been in my life in a nutshell. Your ultimate goal is to be happy, but where is happiness? It's within you. If you want to have permanent happiness, it will never come from the outside. If somebody makes you happy today, that same exact person will make you unhappy tomorrow. How true is that? You are happiness and peace personified. Find that happiness and peace within you. And I think that we all know at some level and truly believe that at UU, this is what we support, someone's path in finding that happiness no matter what that looks like. And as in any religious or spiritual path, there are variations of the yogic path. It depends on who your teacher is and what lineage they studied from and what part of India they were from. Patanjali practiced what is called Raja Yoga, or the royal path. In this royal path, there are 8 limbs of yoga, known as, and please refer to this because I'm going to speak some Sanskrit, yamas, niyamas, asanas, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. These 8 limbs of yoga are not to be seen as different stages, but rather entry points to an expanded sense of self through interpretations, your own choices, experiences that remind you of your essential nature. These are the components of Raja Yoga, the royal path of union. In fact, the actual word yoga means union. Some people define it as to yoke the mind, the body, and the spirit, or maybe the union of the sacred or the divine. So I'm going to explain to you, as best I can, the first 4 limbs of yoga. And as a side note, this is out of order from any book or probable teaching that you would get from someone, but I'm with my amazing family here at UU, and I feel it's okay to be a little bit of a renegade and share with you what makes sense for this particular order of service. So one of the limbs is asanas, meaning seat or position. And I think this is what most people refer to yoga as. They envision someone rolling out a rubber mat and contorting their body into some workout positions. But asana means seat or position. Another limb of yoga is pranayama. It means controlling the life force through the breath. And our breath can help toxins leave the body. It can assist in clearing and focusing our mind. Or it can be the reason that we feel anxious and turbulent. When the breath isn't calm, we tend to not be calm. Breath work, or pranayama, is a great way to take you from a constricted state into an expanded state of awareness. Our breath can help us be more attuned to the relationship between our individuality and the universal connection to the divine. My personal experience with pranayama has been and remains a super powerful one. Several techniques I rely on in high-stress situations that otherwise I would have turned to a much more detrimental activities. It didn't do anything in that situation but exacerbate it. Breath work is simple, it's powerful, and it's free. It's a free way to bring awareness into the now, It can assist us through trying times in our life and help bring energy into our bodies. I'd like to make a note that I was doing a lot of breath work before standing up here. And it works. So we've talked about two limbs of yoga, asanas being poses, and pranayama being breath work. Now let's talk about another limb. It's called the yamas. Yamas, you'll probably be familiar with because these are restraints on the outer world. I'm going to breeze through these because I think you'll be really familiar with them. They're much like the Ten Commandments. Ahimsa means nonviolence. And we can look towards ahimsa by restraining from violence to ourselves mentally and physically, as well as to others. Satya, which is truthfulness. We can look towards the ability to see truth and restrain from untruths that tend to hurt ourselves and those around us. Asteya. I've got it. I have to start over now. Asteya means non-stealing. It suggests that we relinquish the notion that things outside of ourselves are going to bring us happiness. The ability to live an honest life is based upon a deep connection to spirit, not what we purchase. Brahmacharya means celibacy. For the nun or monk, this means a path that includes forsaking sexual activity. However, for most of us, this means rejoicing in a healthy expression of sexual energy, but also being aware and restraining from uncommitted sexual desires, which tend to lead to deviant behavior. Aparigraha, non-greed or generosity. In much of our society, we are hoarders in some form or fashion. We fill our closets, our garages, and toy boxes with things that truly do not bring long-term happiness. So aparigraha is learning to restrain from overindulgences and being aware of those who are less fortunate. So we've covered the yamas. There's going to be a test. Are you guys good? All right. Now the niyamas. The niyamas are rules of personal behavior or reflections of what's going on the inside. This journey can be very exciting. Saucha means having purity of the mind. This niyama suggests that we can see our choices in terms of nourishment versus toxicity. The Royal Path of Yoga suggests that we consciously choose experiences that are nourishing to the mind, body, and the soul. Santosha is contentment of the mind. Contentment implies an acceptance without resignation, but rather relinquishing our attachment to the need for control, power, or approval. And tapas means austerity or accepting pain in the mind. Okay, so I have to admit that this one I did not quite understand for some time. But I read this story that cleared it up for me. This is from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Once a man wandered to anger a saint. He began insulting him. "You dirty rogue, see how many you have ruined with your teachings?" The saint remained quiet, smiling at his tormentor. "Don't you understand my language?" the man asked. "Yes, I sure do." "You mean you've understood my insults this whole time?" The man was incredulous. "Then how can you keep so quiet?" The saint answered. "Son, suppose you brought me some fruit and I refused it. What would you do?" He said, "I'd have to take it back." "Yes," continued the saint. "In the same way, I don't enjoy all these things you have brought me, so you could just take them all back." Handling things in this way takes strength and courage. A person who can not only strike back physically may be physically strong, but mentally they are weak. Mental strength comes from tapas, accepting this pain. But the pain is no longer the pain, but is joy, because we have realized the benefit of it. That is tapas. Svadhyaya. Svadhyaya says this is the study of the mind. And this niyama has been interpreted as being dedicated to the study of spiritual literature. But at its heart, self-study means looking inside. This is one reason why I love coming to this church and hearing from Danny. I feel that he educates and he informs on his personal experiences and walk in his life, as well as the life of others from all over the world, past and present. And typically I walk away from the sermon and feeling how it relates, or maybe doesn't relate, to my own life, I go inside and self-explore, which is the whole point, for me at least, and to become aware of those thoughts and conditions that I have running in my own mind. The fifth of the niyamas is Isvara Pranadhana. This means surrender of the mind, or surrender to God. I love what my teacher certified me, Tracy Sahaja Bonner, says about this niyama, and I quote, "As this mind surrenders to what is, we arrive at the ability to observe ourselves in the flow of God, the divine, the universe. It's just as it is. We learn to trust the flow of is or isness." I love that, to be in the flow of isness. Surrender to the wisdom of uncertainty is Isvara Pranadhana. It reminds us that true transformation, true healing, and creativity flow out of the present moment awareness, which means relinquishing our attachment to the past and embracing uncertainty. Goodness, that was a lot that I just spurted out to you. It's a lot. Niyamas, yamas, pranayama, and asanas. What does it mean to you is going to be your own path. I had no idea that rolling my mat out was going to lead to such a spiritual journey. I'll end with just a couple quotes. Yoga Sita Vritti Narodaha. This is the second sutra of Book 1 in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. This means the restraint of the modifications of the mind stuff is yoga. I'll say that again. The restraint of the modifications of the mind stuff is yoga. This sutra means a lot to me because I have found that much suffering in our lives comes from the way that we think, the perspective that we have on things from past conditioning. Because of my old thinking before yoga, I would have been considered a Tasmanian devil, a bull in a china shop, or just one stressed out Chiquita. Massive transformation in my life has occurred because of yoga. Now I'm happier than ever, even in turbulent times. My ability to manage stress and see things in a different perspective has been more than a blessing to me and my family, I'm sure. They're on the front row, just saying. And being able to have reverence for all life and walks of life has created more joy and harmony in my life than ever before. And this talk is not about me or my story, but I just use it as an example to encourage you to keep walking, one foot in front of another, to find the path, whether it's yoga or whatever path that is for you, that brings that same joy that I have found. And I will end with one of my favorite quotes, and then turn this over to a wonderful and beautiful woman, highly revered yoga instructor, Miss Lee Rose. "Let yourself be silently drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love," by Rumi. Thank you.